So today we're going to make a deep dish pizza. And this is one of the cooler methods that I've seen for making a deep dish pizza. Upon doing some research, I found a couple people that were doing this method that I'm going to show you today, and it works lickety-split. First things first, our pizza dough. I made this pizza dough 3 days ago, and it's been in the refrigerator doing a cold ferment. Now, this particular pizza dough goes together very, very easy, and it's literally ready to use within 24 hours and up to 5 days after you make it. So it's pretty versatile. You can actually use it on any one of those days, and so I have actually used it on each of these days up until now. So I've used it on day 1, day 2, and then again today I'm going to be using it for my deep dish pizza. I mix that with the dough hook for about 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes, until it's nice and smooth and elastic. At that point, I oil a bowl and I scoop it out of my mixing bowl and put it into there. I turn it so that it's equally coated with some olive oil. Then I cover it with plastic and into the refrigerator it goes. When you're ready to use it for whatever pizza you might be making, and again, I've used this for calzone, deep dish pizza, and of course just regular pizza of any kind. I even stretch it and put it right on top, right onto my grill, and it makes great pizzas that way as well. So this is what it looks like. It's very airy and it smells delicious. Of course, fermented pizza dough or fermented dough of any kind ends up going through a process in which it actually kind of breaks down some of the actual flour, structure, if you will. And during that process, you get a much more flavorful dough. Once you're ready to use this dough, I take the amount of dough that I want to use and I roll it into a ball and I let it proof at room temperature for 2 hours. Okay, so this dough has been proofing for 2 hours and it's ready to go into our cast iron pan. We are going to allow that to proof again for about another 45 minutes to an hour, and then we're ready to build our deep dish pizza. So to put this deep dish pizza together, we're going to oil our cast iron pan first. And not a ton of oil, but I'd say a couple tablespoons anyways. We're going to get that all around the bottom of the pan. And then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to actually season the pan. So I'm going to put a little bit of salt, kosher salt in there, about a teaspoon. We're going to season it also with a little bit of dried oregano. You could probably get creative on this and add other things, but I'm doing a fairly simple version. And then a little bit of black pepper. And that's what we're going to season our pan with. And then we are going to take our proofed pizza dough. And we're going to stretch it out a little bit. I'm just going to let the weight of the dough help me stretch it. So just by holding on to the edge, kind of turning it, allowing the weight to pull it down. And you just want to push it into the very edge of the pan. We want this to go right to the edge, but we don't need there to be a lip on it. Okay, so that looks really good. That's what we're looking for there. The dough to reach the sides of the pan. We're going to cover it with plastic and leave it at room temperature for about 45 minutes to allow it to proof a little bit more before we top it and get it into the oven. All right, so our dough has had about 45 minutes to proof, and it's looking good. So the trick with this is we've got it into the seasoned pan, of course. We're gonna make a very basic pepperoni deep dish pizza. And I'm just using crushed tomatoes for this. So it's not a seasoned tomato sauce necessarily, just very basic. The difference between a deep dish pizza and a regular pizza is I'm actually going to go right to the edge with my sauce and my toppings in general. I'm using a mozzarella, but I'm looking for a low moisture mozzarella. So this particular one is 42%. Now, a lot of times you'll find the grated cheese, the grated mozzarellas will be upwards of 46 or 47%. So this seems to work really good, especially when it's chilled. It seems to work great for this method that we're going to be doing. So you can't always find a grated mozzarella that will be 42%, but I purchased this particular brand because of the low moisture content. And again, I'm not going to be shy about going to the edge. Perfectly fine if you go to the edge of the pizza. And the reason we're going to go to the edge is we're going to get that caramely bit around the edge that's touching the pan. And that is one of the lovely things about a deep dish pizza is you get that caramely, crusty kind of bit around the edge that's touched the pan. And that's what we're aiming for. We've got our cheese on right to the edge. And now we're going to use some dry cured pepperoni. And we're just going to spread this around as well. You want it to be uniform so that every slice gets some love. And don't be shy about going up to the edge of the pizza. I love this dry cured pepperoni. When it bakes up, you get these little cups of delicious pepperoni loveliness. Okay, so there is our deep dish pepperoni pizza ready to be cooked. We're going to take it over to the stovetop and get it on a burner on medium, and we're going to start the process. Okay, so onto the stovetop we go. We're going to turn the burner on to about 5. I've also set the broiler to high. So we're going to give this a moment to cook on the bottom. It will start to bubble a little bit, and we're going to have to be careful. This is difficult because you can't necessarily see what's happening underneath there, but we're wanting to start the bottom cooking ahead of time. Then we're going to pop that under the broiler. All of this goes together fairly quickly, probably about 4 or 5 minutes on top of the stove and probably about 3 or 4 minutes under the broiler, and our pizza is done. Here is a quick time lapse of that 5 or 6 minutes on the stovetop. And as you can see, it rises up and gets quite puffy during that process. All right, so I think we're ready to put it into under the broiler. As you can see, we've got a bit of color going on, which is exactly what we're wanting. So we're ready to put that under the broiler. I'm going to give it about 4 minutes before we check it. Okay, now there is our deep dish pepperoni pizza. Doesn't that look amazing? This is what I'm talking about around the edges here, that the cheese and the sauce have kind of spilled over and you've got this crunchy edge. And you can see there, because it's cheese, it's not stuck to it. It'll actually peel away. But that right there is the beauty of a deep dish pizza. Now, when I've done this in the past, it's surprisingly light. A lot of times when I've had deep dish pizza, it's not overly light. Now, this does a great job of making a light deep dish pizza. Crispy around the edges, everything that we are hoping for. Now, we're going to get it out of our pan. And how you do that is you get a spatula underneath there, and we'll slide it right out. So yeah, very, very nice. And we've got a good amount of crust on the bottom there, exactly what we're hoping for. The little cups of those beautiful pepperoni, and unreal. That looks beautiful. And there you go. That is a thing of beauty. Here you go, deep dish pepperoni pizza. Crispy around the edge and oh so beautiful. This looks delicious. I can't wait to dig in. Thank you for joining me on another food adventure. Check out that crust, beautiful. Oh. Out of this world.